Hi, Jesse McCarthy here, and today I'm going to be talking about acknowledging emotions. I'll start off with an old story of mine that probably would be familiar to a lot of parents and teachers out there. And then afterwards, I'll discuss what we can do in such, sometimes challenging situations. Here we go. Early in my education career, so about 15 years ago, I was helping out in the front office of a Montessori and private school, which had toddlers all the way up to junior high students. One morning, I was all alone in the front when I heard this wailing in the hall. I go back, and there's this child crying his eyes out. He was probably about 2 years old. His mom is desperately trying to get him in his classroom, dragging him, giving him tasty treats, etc., etc. You can imagine the situation. Just then, the mom says something to him like, "You need to go to class," and then adds this line, "Big boys don't cry." It was then that this little toddler said something I will never forget. "I don't want to be a big boy." I loved that he said that. But back then, I had no clue how to respond. And his mom surely didn't either. So when I was there, I don't actually recall what the teacher did. I mean, that was like over 15 years ago. So I don't recall the exact details. But I'll tell you what I know since then has been incredibly effective for both teachers, parents. I mean, really in dealing with children generally. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit, even with us adults, but it's acknowledging emotions. So with this child that, "I don't want to be a big boy," he's basically sharing his emotions with you. He's saying, "I don't want to go to school." I mean, you can see that, right? So one thing that we can do as adults, as opposed to saying, "You should be a big boy," or, "You need to go to school," and just kind of hammering with it, is to start out by just kind of mirroring what he's feeling. I mean, he's young. I mean, I don't know if this is about 2 or 3 years old. We got to mirror what this boy is feeling. So the first thing that I would do, and let's say we're the teacher in this case, but I'll also include something with parents later, but it's the same concept. You might say, "Wow, you sound like you're really sad that you have to come to school today." The boy, when you do things like this, the boy or the girl might look around like, "Yeah," still with tears, And then I might say as the teacher, "You'd rather go home with mom, wouldn't you?" Yeah. Like a boy hears that or a girl hears that, they're going to be like, yeah, that's right. I do want to go home with mom. That kind of feeling, right? So what we're doing is just acknowledging what they're actually feeling and maybe even helping them to verbalize it, because some of the young children, they can't get the words out, right? So at that point, you've actually mirrored his feelings. You've taken a step towards kind of relating with the child. But now you do have to talk to him with a certain amount of respect, that there are things that need to get done. Such as, and I would be talking to the child, I know you're sad and you don't want your mom to leave, but she has to get to work. So she's going to say goodbye to you now, but she will be back later to get you." Stop at that. And then what you would do is you would take the child from mom's hands. You have to ensure that mom's willing to give the child up, which is a whole different story. But you take the child from mom's hands. Now, I'm not saying everything's going to be wonderful at this point. The child might still be crying, most likely. Now, once you get them into the classroom, you can acknowledge emotions a little bit more. Something like, "You're really sad mom is no longer here." And the child, again, "Yeah." And there's a little bit of tears. "But mommy will be back later, I promise you." You might give him some kind of comfort, right? But again, the fact is he has to be in the classroom. So what are you going to do? You don't want a crying child. Now he's feeling a little bit better because you acknowledge his emotions, but that doesn't always solve the problem. So what you might do next is, some kind of redirection to something important or something interesting in the classroom. I know, you might have a book that you'd love to show him. "Wow, there's this new book we got. I just want to show you. Do you want to see it?" And you might take his hand and let him walk with you over. Or it's some material that you've been dying to show him. You're really excited about it. Or, let's say you have a class animal. You can bring him over to the animal. I mean, any little boy or girl, even if they're sad about mom, they're going to love to see an animal, right? Now, there still might be some tears, but at least you've got them excited about something in the world that they can learn about, that they can be, a little bit happier about, right? But the main thing is we want to acknowledge that sadness. Do not say, "Don't be sad, your mom will be back." Don't negate the feelings. So the acknowledging emotions is always the first step. The child needs to feel that you understand him. That's the beginning. Now I got to tell you, I talk about acknowledging emotions, which Dr. Haim Gnat really got me into early on. He's a hero of mine, incidentally, and I'll reference him a little bit later as well. But when I'm talking about acknowledging emotions in a large group, a large audience, sometimes I'll have a dad or a mom that's kind of like, they push back. And I think understandably say, well, that's not always going to work. And, should you always be acknowledging even if the emotions are bad emotions? Something like that. And I mean, a good example is when a child just won't listen to you, or somebody inevitably will say, well, what if they do something really bad, like biting or hitting? So what do we do in those situations? Now, first of all, I wouldn't call that bad. I mean, if it was 25-30 and they're biting or hitting, I can honestly and objectively say that's bad, particularly if they're initiating it. That's what's really bad. But as a child, it's a developmental process sometimes for children to bite and hit. Now, it's still completely unacceptable in a classroom, in your home as a parent, but I just want to get across that this is something that children naturally need to learn how to deal with. So they're not bad. They're not bullies at 3.5 years old. We have to get past that. But anyways, back to the topic here. Somebody in the audience says, well, what about that child that pushes or hits? Well, what about them? Let's hop right in. I'm going to share a real world example of this, and then we're going to come back after it. A few years back, I experienced a pretty wild situation while observing in a Montessori classroom. Now, for those of you who've never visited a Montessori classroom, when you're in there, you're not supposed to, hop up and start chatting with the children or getting involved in their activities. You're really supposed to just sit back, relax, chill, and observe, watch what's going on. So that's the context. That's what I'm doing. Now, a few feet from me, there's this one girl, and she's reading a book in this little area. It's like their reading area or nook. And she's in a rocking chair, just reading. I mean, it was lovely to watch. She's so enjoying herself. But the rest of the kids are out there doing their thing. Now, a few minutes into this, a boy walks over. And you see the look on his face, like this boy wants what this girl has. He wants to be in that chair, right? And this is when things start to get a little bit dark. So he says, I want to read. And this girl's having none of it. She looks over, no, I'm reading, no. Right? And this boy, I'm wondering, what is he going to do? Well, what he starts to do is shake the rocking chair. And again, I'm sitting here. I'm not supposed to act. I'm not supposed to do anything. So I'm like, oh man, I'm thinking, what do I do right now? Right? He starts to really shake it. And he shakes it enough that the girl falls out, bumps her head on a bookshelf. Now, she wasn't seriously hurt. It wasn't like, some crazy accident, but she did bump her head. So, of course, she runs over to the teacher crying, the boy pushed me out of the chair, and so forth. What's wild, beyond just this experience, was that what did the boy do? He just literally got into the chair and started reading like nothing happened. At this point, I was looking over, and I've been in Montessori, worked with children for years and years. But, the first thought that came to my mind, this boy's a little monster. I mean, he had that look like just he didn't care. But anyhow, I don't like labels. I didn't want to call him anything, but that was the feeling at the moment. All right, so coming out of that, there's our little bit more intense story. So this isn't just crying at drop-off. This is, literally a child pushing a little girl out of a seat and her hitting her head. So what do we do in this case? Now, whether you're a parent or you're a teacher. So if it's a parent, imagine this is your child that pushed that little girl out of the seat. Or if you're a teacher, well, it's one of your students. It's one of the children in the classroom. So what do you do? So instead of me telling you what I would do, I got to tell you, the teacher who was in there did something more amazing than I think I could have even done in that moment. She just was so on it. So first of all, let me just say with myself, I didn't do anything. So I sat there, I kind of had my hands under my butt, because that's what you're supposed to be doing in a Montessori class. You're not supposed to be, jumping in. But it was super awkward because I'm like, wait a second, should I do something? It was an awkward situation. But let me tell you what I observed. The little girl, she ran over, of course, to the teacher and started to, she's crying. I mean, her head was hurt. And she told the, he pushed me over there. He pushed me while I was reading, that type of thing. And the teacher, interestingly, did not immediately go over to that boy. She just looked at the girl and said, oh boy, your head must really hurt. The girl's like, yeah. And the teacher says, wow, well, would you like me to get you some ice? That was it. She acknowledged her emotion, asked her if she wants to get some ice. The The girl's like, yeah. So the teacher walked peacefully, calmly, not even looking over in the direction of the boy, who incidentally, again, is just sitting there reading. It was so crazy. But anyways, teacher walks with the girl. They get the ice. The girl, and the teacher, actually, I should say this. The teacher also said to the girl, I'm going to go over and talk to, I forgot the boy's name, but she said, I'm going to go over and talk to him. You can choose what you'd like to do now. And I think the girl, because her emotions were acknowledged, the teacher, in a sense, was going to be doing something just by going over and talking with the boy. I think the girl felt content, and she actually started working. And she's got this ice pack that she's holding while she's going back over and doing some activity, right? And the teacher walks now over to the little boy. And I'm right there. I'm thinking, what is she going to say to him? Because, most people would be very, very upset. This is the type of thing that sometimes parents will say, like that child should be thrown out of the classroom, this type of thing. It can get really, especially when it's your own child that got pushed, or if you think your own child's bad, like I was thinking, oh, this monster, that type of thing. But anyhow, teacher walks over. First thing she says to the boy, wow, you must have really wanted to read to push Samantha in that chair. And the boy's kind of like, yeah. Because she's saying he really wanted to read. She's acknowledging the emotions that he had. She continues, and you got angry when you couldn't read. So angry that you shook that chair and Samantha fell out. And the boy's like, yeah. Do you see? So the boy, understandably, the boy wanted to read. He didn't mean like he's going to go over there and just harm Samantha. He actually wanted to read. So the teacher's acknowledging that emotion. But of course, that's not enough. Right? So what the teacher did next is she said, I would like you to come with me over to Samantha right now. Would you like to walk on your own or would you like to hold my hand? As the teacher's basically saying, you're coming over there, but you have some choices because it's always good to give children choices, even when they're, quote, in trouble. So the child, it looks like he just chose to walk next to her. They walk over to Samantha. And this is when the teacher says to the boy and says, I want you to see how Samantha's feeling right now after she fell off that chair. Samantha, do you want to share anything with, whoever the boy's name was? Samantha said, yeah, my head hurts because you pushed me off the chair and I didn't like that. So the boy is getting a deeper sense of the effect of his actions, right? But the teacher doesn't just leave it there. She, in front of Samantha too, she looks at the boy and says, it is okay for you to be angry, for you to really want to read, but you can never in this classroom push or hit or shove or use any violence against another person here. If you do, you will hold my hand for the rest of the day. That was it. And you know what she did next? She just walked away. Now, some of you out there might be thinking, well, there's no apology. There's no sorry. You don't have to do anything. And if you think about it, and I'll tell you, I was watching this situation. That girl goes back to her work. That boy is left there on his own, looking around like, oh boy, my teacher's upset. This little girl is crying. So I actually think that's the punishment alone, right? But for those of you who think you should have a forced sorry, what does that really accomplish? Even think of us as adults. It's just phoniness. And we definitely don't want to be helping to raise phony children. If you do this type of process over and over and over again, I guarantee you children will learn morality. They'll learn to be good. Lectures, on the other hand, will not accomplish that. They will just create children that push down their emotions, push down their anger at you because they have to do this fake apology. But I'm not going to try to convince everybody of that today. I'm just going to be talking about acknowledging emotions. So the last story I want to share is one that kind of everyone deals with, parents and teachers alike. Basically anyone who interacts with children for an extended period of time. It's when a child says he or she hates someone. So before I get into this story here, I want to ask you something. Do you allow hate in your classroom or home? So to answer this question, what I believe is the right way, I'm going to read you a quick little story from the book Between Parent and Child by Dr. Haim Ginott, which incidentally I cannot recommend highly enough. Here we go. Why do children lie? Sometimes they lie because they are not allowed to tell the truth. 4-year-old Willie stormed into the living room, angry, and complained to his mother. I hate Grandma. His mother, horrified, answered, No, you don't. You love Grandma. In this home, we don't hate. Besides, she gives you presents and takes you places. How can you even say such a horrible thing? But Willie insisted. No, I hate her. I hate her. I don't want to see her anymore. His mother, now really upset, decided to use a more drastic educational method. She spanked Willie. Willie, not wanting to be punished more, changed his tune. I really love Grandma, Mommy. Now, how did Mommy respond? She hugged and kissed Willie and praised him for being such a good boy. What did little Willie learn from this exchange? It's dangerous to tell the truth, to share your true feelings with your mother. When you're truthful, you get punished. When you lie, you get love. Truth hurts. Stay away from it. Mommy loves little liars. Mommy likes to hear only pleasant truths. Tell her only what she wants to hear, not how you really feel. Now, a side note here, it's not like little Willie at 4 years old is journaling all of his deep emotions, but that's the kind of feelings that are occurring, or the thoughts, subconsciously inside that are occurring for a child at this time. All right, to finish this up. So what could Willie's mother have answered if she wanted to teach Willie to tell the truth? She would have acknowledged his upset. Oh, you no longer love Grandma? Would you like to tell me what Grandma did that made you so angry? He may have answered, she brought a present for the baby, not for me. So coming out of that there, I think the story kind of answers the question of what I think about, is it good to allow hate in our home or in our classroom? Now, I might get some pushback here and someone say, no, I will never allow hate in my home and so forth. And that's your prerogative. But I just want to note that then you're going to be building a wall between you and your child. Ideally, you want your child to be able to share all of his feelings or her feelings with you. Haim Ginott puts it like this, which I think is beautiful. Quote, it takes great wisdom to realize that all feelings are legitimate. The positive, the negative, and the ambivalent. End of quote. And if you think about this, particularly, I'd say with teenagers, a lot of them, when they come home and parents ask, well, how was your day? What does the teenager say? It was good. It was all right. Because if they've been kind of pushed all their lives to not share certain emotions with their parents, particularly anger, fear, jealousy, these quote bad emotions, why would they share some of their experiences with parents? So I would just say, if you're not all the way there yet where you think it's okay for your child to hate, at least be open to the idea of maybe acknowledging those emotions. Oh, you're really angry? That type of thing. Just start out there. Now, to end on a kind of, for me at least, a high note, I want to share with you a story also from Haim Ginott. In this case, it's his book, Teacher and Child. But it's a great example of just how powerful acknowledging emotions can be, particularly in those cases when you might be feeling something that others don't want you to be feeling. Okay, here we go. Nina, it's a dialogue. Nina, age 5. Teacher, you had a baby, right? This is the teacher. You remember it? Nina, you're married. You're a Mrs. and you wear a ring. You observe that? My sister's going to have a baby. You're going to be an aunt. Yes, but my sister's not married. Oh. Is it better to be married when you have a baby? You're wondering about that? Yes. Everybody at home was all upset and mad, but I'm happy. You're looking forward to being an aunt? Yes, but I wish everyone was happy. You wish they shared your joy? Yeah. Nina paused for a moment, ran over to her teacher, and hugged her. In this dialogue, the teacher was most helpful. She understood Nina's messages and mirrored her feelings. She gave her credit for her observations and reflected her hidden wishes. Nina felt so understood, accepted, and appreciated that she reciprocated with a gesture of love. All right, that is what I have for you on acknowledging emotions. Hopefully you enjoyed or maybe gained a little bit from the discussion. Once again, I am Jesse McCarthy, and all my best to you out there.